Clock's going to beat the Dogs. The Saints are going to hang on. Their smallest win in a final since the 1966 Grand Final.
Well, welcome to our season review edition of Unpluggered for 2020. It's been a few weeks since the dust settled on the season with a semi-final defeat at the hands of Richmond. It's an unfortunate stat, but it's the 11th time in St Kilda's last 16 finals appearances where they've been beaten by the eventual premier, which is a nasty stat. But at the same time, you could probably spin that into a positive in terms of how close they've been in the scheme of things. But it did happen again, obviously, with Richmond going on to win the flag. St Kilda losing a couple of players out of the elimination final with the Western Bulldogs, which proved to be fairly costly in the wash-up. Aaron Hamill joined us on the podcast just prior to round two, St Kilda's first game back from the isolation period first time around. That was at Marvel Stadium against the Western Bulldogs. It was a few weeks later that we would leave Victoria and not play there again for the remainder of the season. Spent over 100 days in hubs, and Aaron Hamill was there every step of the way with the Saints as they broke a 9-year finals drought. Sammy, congratulations on the year, and thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure, guys. It's a lot's happened since round two, hasn't it, since we last spoke? As you mentioned, 108 days or something in the hub. But as you said, sort of 9 years since we've been fortunate enough to qualify, and that's our aim, just to keep turning up, keep qualifying, and then to, I guess, the progress that we made coming from 14th to almost playing off in a prelim, I guess, but sort of falling short by 30 odd points against the Tigers. But overall, quite disappointing to go out as you know in those circumstances, and there's facts and circumstances around it, but basically we weren't good enough to get over the Tigers. But having said that, we felt we made some really good progress and heading in the right direction. But I guess underneath all that, we got a really good understanding. We've had a good solid review, what worked, what didn't, and where we need to get moving in a lot of areas. So really pleased with where we ended up, but we're certainly well aware that we've got a hell of a lot of work to do to not only qualify again, but mix it with the big boys.
How did you full stop the Richmond game? I mean, it's an interesting one from my point of view. I mean, no Ryder, no Carlisle, no Gresham, three pretty handy outs against a team like Richmond, given where we might have been able to exploit them. The more I think about the game, you sort of think, well, we never really looked like winning it, but at the same time, we weren't that far away. We obviously got denied that goal on half-time. We effectively lost by 4.5 goals, somewhere around about that mark. Did the club take away from that thinking there's a gap that we've got to close, or was it we're actually not that far away, we missed some shots, we're in this?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. We realised that at our best we can mix it with anyone, and I feel that we certainly showed that. I mean, back-to-back Adelaide trips was a great one. We hadn't won over there for a decade, let alone doing it back-to-back, and we all know where Port finished. We know Adelaide had their challenges, but certainly at our best, and we had glimpses of it. We certainly didn't expect them to score from stoppage as they did. That hasn't really been Richmond's go until the finals. So, without getting probably too technical, 15-5 at a centre bounce, you're asking for trouble. So we certainly didn't. It's quite difficult to plan for that. Everyone knows how Richmond play with that chaos, and 70-odd% of their scores are from turnovers. So that's what you really go to work on. We know that there's such a powerful running side. They're really clean inside. They taught us a little bit of a lesson inside with how clean they were and taking on the tackler, etc. All the little things they do clearly well, and they've been a very, very good side for a number of years now. So everyone's chasing them. Everyone's well aware of that. But it's a matter of our personnel and the style of play that suits us, and we feel that with probably firming up the bookends now with Dougal and obviously Max at the other end, we've certainly got a fair bit of work to go in that area, but we feel we've certainly got something to kick to with Max and when Rowan and Paddy is sharing the reins there, and obviously Tim and the Smalls at the feet with Butler and Loney and Kent Hine down there. So Gresham was sorely missed, obviously, but look, Longy wasn't there, Carlisle, Ryder, Gresham, the list goes on, but we felt we had opportunities to put scoreboard pressure on. We didn't. They kicked 5-1 in the first, and then we were chasing tail all night. So we got beat up around stoppage. Centre bounce was put us under enormous pressure from a field position point of view, and then the rest was about even. But they showed us up in a couple of areas that we need to clean up.
Sammy, take us back to the time in the hub. We heard other clubs, the stories of players, coaches unhappy and discontent, as you'd expect, and out of other clubs, some negative moments and things that might have impacted their on-field performance. Didn't seem to be any sort of discontent from St Kilda and from our boys. Can you tell us what it was like in our camp?
Well, I think it was a really good opportunity for our younger guys, well the whole list, but our younger guys in particular to keep harnessing that connection that Rats has since he's come on board has driven really, really heavily. We were very well led from Simon Lethlean and Matt Finnis. So from day one, we realised the opportunity that we had, that we were lucky to do what we were able to do. No one signed up clearly for the 100 days, but the club made it as comfortable as what it possibly could, and we really used it just to harness sort of what we started, which was that connection, get to know each other. But it wasn't only just the players to coaches; it was all staff involved, all the players' partners, some of the staff partners and family were up there. So you couldn't buy that experience in terms of getting to know each other and the connection. You're living in each other's pockets, almost 24/7 up there. So it gave us an opportunity to accelerate what we knew, but it was perfect for our group. We're quite privileged to be up there and keeping the show running, really. And it's not only we kept pegging it back to we're representing hundreds of thousands of our Saints community and Saints family, and if that's the price that we had to pay to do it, then we were more than happy to do it. But there was no issues at all. We were well led on and off the field. The boys embraced it. They really enjoyed the experience. Some in sort of 5, 6, 10 years time will realise how fortunate they were to be up there playing. But we were under no illusions that we represented the masses of Saints fans, and that was our drive, and that was something that we all cherish, and we all were feeling for the Victorians back home. The Melburnians struggling away, and while we weren't able to run our own race up there, we still had strong protocols to live by. At least we could give our fans back home something to cling on to, whether that be 2 hours on the weekend. So that was probably a nutshell to how our group, and probably more importantly how our club handled it.
Yeah, obviously at the start of the season, the team will put a bunch of goals together to get what they want to achieve by the end of the season. Going into the hub, did these goals change a lot? Did the goalposts, I guess, kind of move a little bit, and thinking, okay, well, this is going to be a progressive thing along as the season goes to, okay, we'll achieve this, then we'll achieve this, then we'll achieve this, or was there something really set in stone? You're going, yep, no, we still believe we can do this, and how much of that did we look at the end of the season and go, yep, that's the sort of area we got to in the end?
Yeah, it's a good question. If you look at round one and we go all the way back there, it was probably a blessing in disguise what happened to round one. But this year we didn't want to give up the 4 points, and clearly we were gutted about how we lost, being 38 points up. So we had 10 weeks to review that game, so to speak. So those that have had much to do with rats or interviewed rats, he's pretty dogged with it all in terms of making sure that we cover all bases as we should. So that didn't sit well with him. It didn't sit well with the boys. It didn't sit well with the whole club. So it gave us a really good opportunity to review that game, almost minute by minute, in every line, every area, every individual. So that was, as long as we came out of that period, with learnings from it. We lost 4 games under 10 points as well. So we while we showed some growth, it's like every side, you still got to be able to take your learnings, particularly when you win, but clearly more so when you lose. And that Kangaroos game was something that if we could just get this component right to start with, and that'll give us a really good basis of to grow our game. The type of footy that we want to play, in that fast, exciting, attacking footy. So we had to tidy a fair few things up defensively with that. If we want to move the ball quick, then we've got a good understanding that it can leave us open a little bit in terms of the amount of space on the ground to defend. So that was a strong review. But moving forward, it was around about, if we can get our game right and get our system right more often than the opposition, we believe we have the talent, although we still want to keep adding to that. We have the talent and then the growth from the younger players that we saw a number of. We feel that we're in the mix, and that was our aim, just to keep improving. But when we do qualify, like what we did, we need to keep being able to generate that belief. And we competed strongly most of the time. That didn't really let us down there, and we felt we improved a lot. But it was all around. We didn't have a goal that we had to finish top 4, or of course you want to, and history tells you that you need to have a good crack at it. But our aim was just to play the best footy that we can, play that fast attacking brand of footy, but the nuances and the mechanics of the defence, we felt that we had to get right. So we felt we did a lot right, and we improved in that. But the scope, when you get to the pointy end, is our room for improvement.
If we're going to improve, there's certainly reasons. You look at guys like Clark, Caulfield, Patton, Marshall, those sorts of players. But 2 that I wanted to focus on in particular are different ends of the spectrum, Max King being one and Brad Hill being the other. You were obviously a leader when Nick Rewalt was coming through as a young key forward, and you sort of nursed him through. What's the next step for Max in his development? And Brad Hill, I think if we were going to play finals, if you looked at it at the start of the year, you'd assume that he'd finish top 6 in the BNF. He's finished 11th, 12th, something like that.
Yeah.
How do I guess we get the best out of him? I know it's often been spoken about that we perhaps weren't using him as much as we needed to. How do you see the next step for Max, but also for Brad to maximise his game?
Yeah, I think first of all with Max, it's it's bloody exciting what we're seeing, isn't it? I think every Saints fan around the country would love seeing the number 12 running around, but really how the number 12's getting it done. He didn't get everything right. He's so young. His development playing, arguably one of the hardest positions on the ground, and a lot of ball went to Max. So we probably got to be a bit more unpredictable in that. But a lot of footy was channeled through him. Now Max either marks the ball or he gets it to the ground, hence why we scored so many goals from 0 to 15 out. So he's a great target for us. He's only going to develop even more as he continues to have more pre-seasons and gets to understand his body even more, the game plan and himself and the belief. So he's got an enormous drive. He's self-driven. He's committed. He's such a pro at such a young age. Very, very similar to Nick. He's got that work ethic, and what comes with that is just his belief. And as soon as he gets, a bit more muscle around him, we see tall, marking forwards. We saw Hawkins the year that he had, but the age that say Hawkins is to Max, we think his development is. Has been really good. He's doing fantastic work with with Brendan Lade, the forwards coach, and Ruffy Jarrett's been really good for him, teaching him the tricks of the trade and when to use his body and, probably more so when to relax and then when to turn on a bit. So he's going to be in the game for a long, long time, Max. We hope that he's, a 15-year player for the St Kilda Footy Club, and we can't be probably more happier than how we developed this year. But the old second-year blues, he doesn't want to be part of that. He's sussed the system out at a young age. He knows that he's not really interested in, and he's got a good understanding of not his, really his draft pick, but he wants to mirror that up with his work ethic that I saw with Nick at such a young age, and we've got a good understanding when Nick finished. So certainly not saying that he's going to be as decorated as Nick, but he's certainly on the right path, and we like what we're seeing. Brad, it's not easy at his age changing clubs. We felt that he while externally probably didn't have the impact that we would have liked. There were some games where we wanted to get his hands more dirty, and no doubt about that. But the way that he's embraced the club, he's fantastic with the connection and the younger guys on and off field. He's only going to get better as he goes on. I think if you look at wingmen all over the comp this year, gone are the days where West Coast and Collingwood were getting 400 possessions, and Gaff's getting his 30 plus, or Phillips from Collingwood. The conditions up there were probably as what you see were a bit slippery. A lot of games, at 80% of our games were at night. A little bit slippery, a little bit dewy. We were averaging about 270 possessions. So the 25 plus, the 30 plus, but it was more his dynamic run, his decision making, his kicking clearly is A grade. So we want the ball in his hands more, and we feel that he's going to have a strong influence over our group with his experience for a number of years. So yeah, we feel that he'll be much better for the year that he's had and the seasons that he had. It's not easy coming into a new club and putting your feet under the desk straight away and getting used to it. It takes time, and both ways. How does our team sort of get Brad involved in the game more, and how can Hilly get himself involved? It takes time to gel.
Sammy, our goal kicking seemed to improve markedly this year from previous years. Can you put it down to one particular thing that changed, or was it part of the reason that we managed to get a whole lot more extra shots from that 10, 15 metre mark that you mentioned earlier? And if so, what was it in the game plan that changed to make that possible?
Yeah. What do you think it was, Nick? Do you reckon it was where we were having the shots from?
100%.
Yeah.
Something that I've looked at and analysed most of the year, to be honest. But obviously the easier shots are, the more likely you're going to kick them, and you'd rather have shots from 20 out directly in front than on the boundary. Yeah,
I think we were just under 60%, so a significant improvement from the year before, wasn't it? And the year before that. So, look, we felt that we attacked in the right areas for most of the year. It was also the ability to share the ball once we got that mark inside 50, and that secondary mark helps. But clearly, if we can funnel that footy in to Max quick or our tall targets, we average sort of just under 10 marks a game there. So that puts us in the top bracket as well. But our ground ball and pressure is pretty strong as well. So we weren't going as wide as much. Stats will tell us that. And in particular, the where we were having the shots, that 0 to 30 was a great result for us. So why we don't want to be so predictable all the time. We need to get that balance around when we go quick, and if it's Max one-on-one, we take that. Same as Tim, Rowan, Paddy, John O'Marsh when he's down there. We'll take that and we'll back our talent in, and then more importantly, we'll be able to get the ground level support where we need it.
So, which of the players do we think we need to build units for at Moorabbin and only allowed to take a bus to Marvel or to the airport? Who really took on the hub life best?
Yeah, well, we had a few bus trips, didn't we? It was a 3-hour bus trip down to Metricon, and then a 2-hour sort of little hop down to Brizzy. So we got a good understanding of what getting on a bus is like. At times, the coaches were able to sort of scoot down in a little minibus, so that was good. Depending on who was on the tunes, that was always made or break the trip. So generally, I took the reins there and didn't let too many down. But yeah, that was good fun. But yeah, look, I wouldn't say. I mean, there were times when it was a struggle. You know, there was times when we'd still win, but you know, we still had issues, whether it was, you know, family back here for some, or really sort of involved in a hub where the boys, particularly early days, where they couldn't get out and really do their own thing. So it's been well documented around teams that did struggle with it, and I think certain players have come out and said that they didn't cope. But we had really good support. You know, we're really lucky. We have Tony Brown in our welfare space, who's just a gun in that area. Ben Robbins with our sports psych. You know, and all our coaches are so diligent and thorough in what they do. So their relationship with the players is first and foremost. And then we had, I guess, the whole staff support. You know, supported by a medical team and whatnot. And High Performance did a great job. Our injuries, I guess, were significantly low, apart from, you know, I guess, Hannibal and Webster's hamstring. So and then Gresham's back at the end. So we didn't have really any significant hiccups, but at times it was a battle, and I guess that's just sort of part and parcel where you're at. The 4-day breaks were solid and tested the boys out. Or tested everyone out. Really, what, you know, the boys do best. But yeah, I wouldn't say there was too many that significantly struggled with it. But by the end of it, the boys adapted well.
Sammy, what's the latest on Paddy Ryder and his injury, and any news on Jake Carla?
Paddy's going well. His operation was a success. It was quite a lengthy one, but he got through that well. He's well on his way to rehab now, and his rehab program that our High Performance will facilitate well with him. You know, he's really diligent in how he goes about it. He's had a really good taste of finals footy now, and he's got a good understanding of his influence over the group and how important it is to us. So, yeah, we look forward to getting him back. He's not the 5-plussers aren't back till first week of Jan, so they've got a bit of time. But in saying that, he wants to make sure that he does his rehab right. He's in Melbourne now, so he's in good hands here. As far as Jake goes, and as far as I'm aware, there's a contract on the table there for Jake. He's a critical part for us. We know that he's a terrific defender for us. He's got a lot of attributes that, at his best, that we like. So I wouldn't have thought that'd be too far away.
And do we know of anyone else who's going to be possibly missing a little bit of pre-season, going in for anything to clean up, or is it all looking quite good at the moment? Real fit list, just those couple of niggles that we need to get over, and we get straight into it.
Yeah, pretty fit list. You know, obviously Gresh is coming back from his back, but all reports he's going really well. He's well and truly, you know, into his middle, sort of coming to the end of his rehab program. So that'll be quite steady there with Jade. There'll be no hurry to get him moving straight away, but you know, we got a bit of time there with Jade, and you know, we just got to make sure it's a significant injury. So you've got to give it the respect that it deserves. And when he's right, he'll hit the track running. He's one that loves pre-season, Jade. So I'm sure he'll look forward to get back there running. But apart from that, we all got. I mean, they are quite significant, both Paddy and Jade. So that's probably enough for us to carry and get right. But the rest was a couple of little niggles that there's no real issues with. So fingers crossed, the boys come back well and fit and hungry and committed again, and away we go.
Sammy, I think Jack Steele kind of breakout last season and obviously took another step forward this season in terms of the way that he handled himself on the field, but also it seemed like off the field as well, obviously, awards nights and that sort of stuff. Do you get the sense that he's ready to take on more of a leadership capacity next season? I think a lot of the fan base was surprised that he wasn't in the leadership group coming into this season.
Yeah, it's the sense I get. It is. It's. It's just a really good story with Jack. I mean, what you see is what you get with him. He's such a humble, driven bloke that he's outstanding in what he does. Clearly on field, we know how good he is on field and what he does and the steps that he's taken this year. Third in the Brownlow, best and fairest All Australian. He had an outstanding year, which is, I guess, what you guys saw. But he really took some big steps with his development in leadership. He was in the meetings often. He really he leads by action and very similar mould to, say, Robert Harvey and the greats that I played with, Lenny Hayes and even your sort of Stephen Kernahan and Craig Bradley, those types. And he's the feeling I get that he enjoys his leadership role. He's got an understanding of the responsibility with it. But having said that, Jaron Geary, he's done an outstanding job, and he did a terrific job this year. Just the roles that you could see that he was playing has probably given everyone a good understanding around the character of the guy and what he's prepared to do for the footy club. So while there's others that are coming through with certainly leadership qualities, and Dougal's another one of them that Jack, we felt took some really big steps in that area, and it's something that he'll only get better at. Whether or not he wants to aspire to be a captain, I don't know. That's something Jack would have to comment on. But I get the feeling that he's certainly he's embraced the leadership role, and he knows that the responsibility he has. Yeah.
Now, how do we look at next year? Do we put this year down as a benchmark and think, okay, we know what we can achieve. This is where we think we should now be able to be at that sort of level and jump from there, kind of thing? Do we look at other sort of players and go, okay, that's the player who's going to take us to that next level again after this season? Is there anyone we look at particularly going, yeah, okay, they're the next ones we're going to step up after, as Nick was just saying, with Jack Steele lifting so much this season? Is there someone else who's next, we think, going to do that?
Well, the majority of our growth or our, I guess, the level of our performance is always going to come from growth within. I mean, you can only inject so many per year, and even then they can be quite young and immature, I guess, physically. So the expectation shouldn't sit on those shoulders. It's certainly the growth within. We expect, clearly Nick Caulfield, who had a great year, 5th in the BNF. We expect him to keep getting better. In my opinion, working closely with him this year with the backs, was that he's just scratched the surface around where he's going to end up in 3, 5, 10 years time. Whether that's more time in the midfield, who knows? But he's just scratched the surface. We need him to get better. We need him to come back really dog hungry and wanting to improve, along with Long and Patton and Clark. If he wants to take that next step into the midfield, then he's got a good understanding of what he needs to do to mix it with those guys. So certainly the growth, we feel Wilkie's going to get better, Howard's going to get better. Up the other end, we know that Max is going to keep improving. Tim's going to hold his end of the bargain up, and clearly the dynamic within the midfield is something that we need to get right. The mix in there, we've got some really experienced heads. And they're only going to get better the more that they play with each other, in terms of the minutes that they get into each other and got a good understanding. So, I definitely feel that it's the growth within. Everyone needs to lift and perform if we want to not only just qualify, but we need to get moving in all the right directions, in the right direction with every phase of our game. You know, our contest needs to get better. Our hands in tight, our ability to defend quicker and stronger for longer, and our offense can take. You know, we need to fine tune that a bit. So all phases of the game, we need to get moving, because just because we played in the finals this year doesn't give us any right at all for 2021. We got to do the hard work. We got a lot of. You know, I guess we got a lot of from out of our review. We've got some themes that we need to get working on, and the sooner we can get back, we get the boys back. Sort of the first of 4 years, 5th and 6th of December, or not too far off that. So we'll get them back. We'll train them up well. They'll be in their own habitat, so to speak, and we'll go from there. But it's exciting. The Saints supporters that I speak to are really looking forward to 2021, and you know, the last thing that we want to do is regress and sort of be a flash in the pan side. We've worked too hard for that to happen, but again, we've got to earn the right to qualify and earn the right to win games of footy.
We'll let you go shortly, mate. I apologise for keeping you so long, but last one from me. Paddy McCartin, as someone who's been through their fair share of footy injuries, how do you feel on a potential return for Paddy? And as someone who's both played footy and coached this man in particular, any words for Shane Savage?
Shane Savage in what regard?
Well, I think Rats kind of announced after the game against Richmond that he was probably going to move on, and there was some interest from some other clubs. And I guess from a club perspective, you know, what we'd like to say to Shane for his service.
Yeah, that's news to me. Yeah, I haven't heard that, mate. So I probably can't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I probably can't comment on that. I'll have to listen to Rats' press conference. Yeah, that's news to me, and that'll come as a surprise, given the conversations that we've had. But I'll leave that one alone. Paddy's, Paddy's he's a terrific young man, and I know I've been involved with him, I guess, clearly the last 5 years, but in more particular the last 6 months, and seen him close up and seen how committed he is. You know, he looks fit, he's happy, he's healthy, he's really committed to getting the best out of himself and to keep putting his case forward, whether that's in conversations with St Kilda Footy Club, whether or not it's, you know, with other clubs. I'm sure he's working through that, but my conversations with him and is that'll all take place in the next week or so, a couple of weeks apparently. So whether that is at a footy club, we just at the Saints, or whether it's another club, who knows? I hope it's with the footy club. If not, he'll given the character of the guy and how committed he is to get the best out of himself, I'm sure he'll bob up somewhere and we'll all look on. But no, we wish him well, Paddy. Whether it's again with us or someone else, we're not quite sure yet. But let's hope that he gets a good run with it, because he's one that's got a heap of talent. You know, early days he was playing some good footy for the Saints. So we'll see where that one lands.
Sammy, we've always been on the hunt for sponsors on this program. I can tell you Vodafone won't be one of them. They've been a bit of a pain in the backside over the course of the evening. But we've stretched the relationship pretty far tonight. We appreciate you sticking with us for as long as you have, and particularly when you're on leave and on a public holiday as well. So thank you very much. Well done on the year. I think a lot to be proud of, a lot to build on, and thanks for giving us some insights from the inner sanctum.
Thanks, Parker. So when you're off air, mate, we all... one of your Chris Kringles, mate, will be a new modem. So let me know where I can contribute to that, boys. And we'll
just another mouse for the wheel will be enough. He just took a break. Had to give him some more cheese. He's back on the bike, but he'll be busy for a while. But thank you, mate, and good luck for 2021.
Pleasure, boys. Anytime. Thanks for having me again.